All right,
Hi,
hi.
everybody. It's Ariel and Vicki. Woohoo!
It's all right. It's our monthly gathering to talk about, well, with for healing for pets and people. So
Healing
tell them what we're
pets and
doing this
people.
month, Ariel.
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Vicki?
Good. So tell them what we're doing this month.
Today we are working with soul contracts. We're going to talk about soul contracts. We've had some conversations because sometimes we team up and help each other with people and pets. And we've had some recent conversations, and we thought we should share some of this information with you. So I'm Ariel Hubbard. I've been doing energy work for 33 years. And this is my colleague, Vicki Draper.
Yes, Vicki Draper, and I have been professionally doing it for 24 years.
Awesome. And Vicki is an author. As you can see her books in the background. She is an animal healer. She is an educator, and she supports people as they're moving through their process. And I'm also an educator, speaker, writer, and mentor for people who are empaths. And so we're going to talk about soul contracts. So what are they? So a soul contract is, so imagine you as a person or human being. You have your life, your awareness of your experience and your relationships. But that's only a tiny bit of your actual energy. A lot of your energy, your soul energy, exists in the spirit world. Different names exist for that. But our souls are much bigger than just what's in our body that gives our body life and consciousness. And that part of your soul that's in the higher levels of existence has relationship with other souls, right? And sometimes before we come into the body, we make agreements with other souls to have a type of experience. Sometimes it's creative. Sometimes we want to experience a certain state. We want to accomplish certain goals. We want to learn things, maybe have fun, do different things together. And we make these different agreements. And there are a whole bunch of different types of agreements that I'll talk about in a minute, but they're important. And so sometimes when you interact with or meet people, you feel like you know them, you feel like knowing them is important, you feel like it's significant. And that's usually because you made a prior agreement to do some things together that is significant, and you wanted to remember that. So when you see each other, you feel this connection because you guys had made an agreement that you wanted to do certain things together. And that helps you remember. And then you start exploring what that connection is or what that soul contract is. Okay, so that's definition. Vicki, what are soul contracts for pets or for people? They have them too, right?
Yes, I have discovered they have them too. And
Nice.
um it doesn't always come up in a session. However, when it's divine, when the person is ready, when the circumstances are meant to delve into that, we do. And
Interesting.
yeah, and I watched a contract being created as a pet was passing,
Oh, really? Tell us about
guardian.
that. I'd love to hear
And
about that.
that was interesting to me because have a client who had a dog, Sophie. Sophie's on the homepage of my website. And they had a soul contract, and they came in, they actually met in Kenya and migrated to the US. I mean, she's a nurse, so she would work all over the world. Anyway.
So
Um,
she found Sophie and she brought her back to the United States.
yeah.
Okay.
And so Sophie got cancer. And so there was a lot of exploration with their relationship and a lot of caretaking and a lot going on. And then when Sophie was transitioning at a young age, that's what's sad, young
Aw.
age. Um, it was obvious their souls had, connected, that they were meant to be together and they were meant to
Right?
be back together again. And so as Sophie was passing, this was during COVID. So some clients, when they want me to go in with them, I will, but she couldn't even go in until she was putting Sophie down. So I was on the phone with her.
Okay.
She was in the animal hospital with Sophie's passing and
Okay.
helping them get closure, helping them connect. And one of the things that happened was I witnessed a soul contract of when making it that they'll be together again.
Oh, wow.
It was, oh yeah, I'm getting chills here. It
It's
was
very moving.
beautiful. It was like, oh my gosh, I got to see it firsthand. And so yes, animals and people have soul contracts. Things are going to work through together and be together. And
Wow.
it's beautiful.
That is beautiful. There are different types of contracts between people. Sometimes kids make agreements with other human beings and because they're wanting to get some support. Sometimes they do it with non-physical beings too, especially if they're looking for love, approval, or support. Sometimes adults will have contracts between each other. And a lot of times this stuff shows up from prior incarnations and then shows up in this incarnation. And they're significant. They're just kind of like what you were saying. The energy is really powerful. It's really strong. Usually when people have soul contracts with each other, they can feel that something's significant and important between them. So when they meet, they can feel like it's important. And then the question is figure out what is the soul contract. And sometimes you just have to ask a lot of questions like what are we doing together? What are the people's interests? Sometimes it's a contract where someone's going to learn a lesson. And sometimes the lesson isn't always positive. Like, it could have been between the pet guardian and Sophie was like appreciating the time they had together, even though it was short. I mean, that could have been a lesson. Sometimes it's like that between
Mhm.
human beings. Sometimes people, their lesson is learning to have boundaries. Sometimes it's learning how to deal with difficult people. Sometimes it's learning how to experience joy and love and happiness and peace. There are all different types of lessons that people can learn or experience. But it's not always about lessons. Sometimes it's about creating. Like sometimes artists will have a soul contract to create art together, which
Mm.
is really interesting. Sometimes, like there might be an artist couple that get married and then they get divorced, but they still create art together because their contract wasn't about being married. It was about doing the artwork together, which I find interesting. And they're all different types of agreements that people make. You have any other stories about soul contracts that you
That
can
was
think
the
of?
biggest, most pronounced.
Yeah.
Sometimes, okay, what I will share is yes, because I just had that this week, that sometimes when a person has made a soul contract with another person, it impacts the pet because
Uh-huh.
the guardian's energy is impacting the pet. And so, there is a correlation in that way.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Especially if it's, I don't know, like a difficult, like because from a soul, I call it soul goals. Souls look for goals to be achieved. They're not what the personality wants to achieve. So a soul goal could be, let's say in one lifetime, someone is lazy and they don't learn anything. So they pick the advanced curriculum and they're following life where everything is difficult. Now, from a personality perspective, that's kind of a drag, but from a soul perspective, they learn a whole lot of stuff and because they experience difficulty and adversity and the soul goal was to learn like 10 different things and they learned those things. It may not have been pleasant for them, but they learned those things. So a lot of us, we have to remember that just because something we're experiencing is not something we like, I call those apparently negative situations, that doesn't mean it's not an accomplishment of a soul goal. Because sometimes you guys know life can be challenging. It has its ups and downs, right? And a lot of times the down part is actually where your soul's accomplishing something. Like it could be character development. It could be learning how to be compassionate. You could feel physically ill, so you're compassionate for people who are sick, or having memory issues, so you can have compassion for people with memory problems, or experiencing poverty, so you can have compassion for the poor. I mean, they're all different kinds of things. They seem like they're negative, but they're actually something your soul wanted to accomplish. And so it will create soul contracts with people to help you accomplish those goals.
Yeah, so all right. So for listeners that may want to know, is so when a soul contract gets resolved in this lifetime or for this lifetime, then that you may then separate from being a friend or from being a mate or whatever, because
Absolutely.
that means that that agreement has come to an end.
It could be separation, or it could just be whatever you are doing together terminates, because it's not always like a marriage, or it could be a project. So, but yes, usually there's some kind of conclusion to whatever that is, that experience is, because people are done and now they're going to use their very valuable time to go do other things and move on. There are all kinds of agreements. I've seen things like a master slave relationship, and like in a prior incarnation where someone was a slave and the other person was the master, and then they reincarnate, and then the dynamics shift and the power dynamic is the opposite. That's really common. Not necessarily in this lifetime as a master slave, but maybe as a parent child in this life, it could show up like that. So the dynamics can reverse, they can change, and it's not always one to one. Sometimes you have an experience that you had in a prior life and you want to have a different experience in this life, but it's not necessarily with the same person that you had that with in the prior life. It could be a totally different person, but you could still have a soul contract to have that experience. So that's helpful. That's important to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, because we haven't told anybody how to reach us, we should probably do that real quickly in case they have more questions about this. So, Vicki, how can people reach you?
You can reach me at healingyouranimal.com. From there, it has all my contact information, and you can even sign up for a complimentary assessment there.
That's
so
awesome.
healingyouranimal.com.
You can also see or listen to prior episodes of our podcast on there too, if you go in the media section on Vicki's website. And then I'm Ariel Hubbard, and that's arielhubbard.com, ARIEL, Hubbard, like old Mother Hubbard, HUBBARD.com. And from there, you can get links to email me or text me if you have questions or you want to set up an appointment. I do have a blog on there. I have videos about energy work on there, and information about classes and things that I do. So that's how you can reach us if you want more information. Sometimes people come to me looking for healing, and they have like a relationship that they can't seem to disengage from. And sometimes I can help them terminate a contract, because sometimes contracts just need to be terminated, especially with contracts with entities. So there are contracts between people, there are contracts between people and animals. There are also contracts sometimes between people and non-physical beings. And I'm not necessarily talking about guides. I can talk about other types of beings that are not always friendly or looking out for our best interest. And so when you have attachments like that, it's important to terminate those contracts. And so I can help people do that too. And that's important also, because we don't need unproductive energies hanging out in our auric fields, right, Vicki?
Right, exactly. And so I run into that. And when you hear the word entity, it's not to freak out.
Yeah.
It's an energy. And yes, it could be helpful and it could not be for your best interest.
Right.
And so
it's a matter thing, guys.
It's a matter of then coming to a professional and we get it cleared.
Right. And it's not about something that's scary or like anything like that. It's just something that's present that really shouldn't be. And as sovereign beings, we can declare what's in our space and what's not. So like Vicki said, a professional can help you clear that out of your space.
Right. The one thing that is frustrating or can be is that they can be like a parasite or whatever, and really sucking your energy.
Yep.
And so that's where, if you're tired and you've done all the things and nothing is working, it could be you need to get a clearing, that something has just come in and you're unaware, and we just simply send it on its own way. Because we're sovereign beings, as Ariel said. They don't have permission to be in our space, but if we don't know that's what's going on, we don't know to tell them to leave.
Exactly. You just said it perfectly. So like she said, if you feel tired and you looked at your thyroid, you looked at your adrenals, you looked at your food intake, your sleep, you looked at, whether you're getting exercise, like all the physical health stuff, you've dealt with your emotional issues, right? You're getting anything that you need corrected and you're still feeling that, it could be an energetic issue and not one of those.
Yeah. And what I have found is animals don't typically carry them. However, I have had to remove them from animals because they've gotten them from people.
Yes.
And so it's not out of the ordinary. I mean, it's not impossible for animals. I guess
It's just unlikely.
it's not a common everyday thing. However, animals can get them. And when they get them, then we clear them. And then I talk to the guardian and we, need to get them cleared so that they're not there to get back.
Sending it to the animal, right?
Yeah.
It's like avian flu. We can't catch that from birds, right? Right. We can't catch that from birds. So not normally that wouldn't, like this kind of attachment wouldn't normally happen. Rarely, probably because the animal gives permission to try to help the human dealing with the any attachment that would happen, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then how that shows up for the animal is health issues, that the things from the vet just aren't touching it. Then it's like, okay, we need to go further and look.
Right. So whenever you're looking at these things, address the physical, address the emotional, if that applies, address mental stuff, issues or challenges. And then if that stuff isn't happening, it's probably a spiritual problem or an energetic problem. And that's one of your ways you can check. Also, regarding contracts that might have been with non-physical beings, sometimes people feel a presence around that doesn't feel like a spirit guide. It doesn't feel light. It doesn't feel supportive or coming from unconditional love. It just feels like someone else is there, but not necessarily looking out for the person's highest good. So if you feel that around somebody, that's probably an indication that there's an entity attachment. Okay. So just be aware that this can happen. And that's where you want to get somebody to help clear that off for you. That's really important. You guys, so some people in the world of healing make a really big deal out of that. I've seen Christian faith healers have 700-page books on this topic. I'm not into drama. Vicki isn't either. We're not into that. We're not going to go into the scary and all that, because the thing is that non-physical beings like negative energy. And if you get scared, that actually feeds them. So we don't go there. That's not where we're at. We're at, okay, here's what it is, how we're going to address it and clear it out of your space. And that's where we're at.
And like not give it any power and clear it.
Exactly.
So that you and your pet have your power fully back.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you so much. I have a question for you, Vicki. Do you have any essences? Because Vicki also has essences that she uses with people, because sometimes, you need something when you're traveling or you need something in the car where you could just spray essence. Do you have anything that would help something like this?
Yes, I do. It's actually called spirit release.
Awesome. Because the traditional term for this is spirit releasement. That's the name you'll see faith healers using. That's a term I use sometimes. So spirit release, is that your spray?
It is the essence called spirit release.
You feel like something's around, you just spray it. And
yeah.
Okay, and that's on your website, right?
It is.
Awesome.
It's probably under products for people because
it's a people problem, not an animal problem usually.
Right. Because
yes,
it's the same formula on my site, whether it's on the person line or the animal line. It's just some things don't make sense for the animals.
yes.
I know you can definitely find it on the people line called Spirit Release.
Awesome. So if that's like something you need while you're traveling, or you want to spray it in your office, so like anything that's floating around in there like doesn't come into your space, you can just spray.
Yeah, and if you're having weird dreams and you feel like what's going on, it's a great spray to use as well.
That's fantastic. I love it. For those of you working with your chakras, I would recommend that if you're interacting with, and I'm not talking about non-physical, I'm talking about spirit contracts with people right now. What you could do is you could tune into your heart chakra, which is pink or green, or you could tune into your third eye, which is dark blue. So this is the chakra of intuition, your third eye, and then your unconditional love and connection chakra for your heart. And you could put your awareness in these two places, and then you could ask yourself, if you're interacting with someone, what is my connection with this person? And that's a way to start tuning into, if I feel like I have a soul contract with you, how can I find out what that is? I could start tuning into these chakras to see if I can get some information about what that is. And then the other person can also tune in and figure that out. And I have a crazy one. I'll just a quick little story. I met somebody at a spiritual conference. We felt an instant connection. I've never seen this person in my life. We start talking, and it was a very strong, palpable energy. And we had been close in a prior lifetime, and we both remembered it. And it was really amazing because it was just like we were both talking. We're like, how do I know you? What's going on? What do you remember? And then this other person, what do they remember? And then we started talking about what it is that we remembered with each other and then who we were to each other before. And then, like, just what is the lesson learned by reconnecting in this life? And literally, sometimes a conclusion of a contract is like quick. It's like it could be a 15-minute conversation. It's not necessarily like 15 years with somebody. It could just be a quick little resolution or a learning or acknowledgement of something. And then the energy closes out, the transaction, the interaction closes out. And I call it a transaction because energy is passing forth between people. Once you get resolution, you know what the contract is. It's complete. The energy disengages, and then you're free to move on.
Yes, and so, right, there you go. It does not have to be a big drama, and it doesn't have to
Yes.
be a long drawn up thing. It can be simple and it can be easy. And because it's for both people, it's amicable. I mean, because it's the win-win for both people.
Absolutely.
There's a resolution, so you don't have to be afraid of it ending.
Right. That's important. It's really important. All right. So we've talked about soul contracts. We talked about contracts between pets and people. If you were going to summarize, Vicki, what would you say? What tips would you give, or what information would you give?
Well, love your pet.
Love your pet.
Love your pet, love yourself. And if something feels off and it's beyond your ability, reach out to Ariel for yourself, reach out to me for your pet,
Yep.
your pet and your relationship, and get support, because it's
Get
not
the
in your imagination. The spiritual realm is real, and it's just not as obvious. And so that's what we're here to help educate and give you hope and places for support.
Awesome. Vicki, you're fantastic. Thanks again for doing this with me and for allowing me to do it with you. And thanks everybody for listening.
I know it's always fun, Ariel, because we bring such richness because of our years of experience, and I love putting it with the people and the animals together. And so this is just fun to do, and hope
Totally.
everyone is enjoying it as much as Ariel and I are.
And you want to see something funny? We're both wearing animal print shirts, and we did not coordinate our wardrobe before we got on here.
No, we didn't.
I just tuned in about what I should wear, and this is what I picked.
Me too.
I just wanted to share that funny little cool synchronicity.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for being here with us. We're back in a month. We're at the first month at 10 a.m. on Facebook Live. And
First Thursday, yes.
Sorry, first Thursday.
Yeah.
And we love sharing things with you and experiences. And so you can reach Ariel at arielhubbard.com, and you can reach me at healingyouranimal.com. And you can go to healingyouranimal.com in the media tab to watch past episodes. And you can also find us on YouTube at Vicki Draper.
Right on, you guys. Thanks so much. Take care, everybody.
All right,
Have a good
see
one.
you next month.
See you next month.